Good afternoon. I'm Karen Holmes Ward. With the stroke of a pen, President Donald Trump is attempting to upend the lives of would-be American citizens. Babies born in the United States to undocumented parents would be ineligible for automatic birthright citizenship, which is outlined in the Constitution. The order, creating fear and confusion, is now making its way through the courts.
The sham executive order is absolutely unlawful. Full stop.
Legal challenges are underway after President Donald Trump signed an executive order banning birthright citizenship. The order means babies born to parents who are not citizens or permanent residents with green cards will not automatically become citizens, even though they were born in the U.S.
He doesn't get the authority to do that. He's not afforded that authority in his presidency. There is a process to change the Constitution, and if he wants to do that, he has to follow that.
The ACLU filed a separate lawsuit in New Hampshire, and Lawyers for Civil Rights also filed yet another lawsuit with La Colaborativa in Chelsea and the Brazilian Workers Center.
The president does not get to decide who is a U.S. citizen. That is determined exclusively by the Constitution.
I'm only a citizen because of birthright citizenship.
Mayor Michelle Wu holding her newborn daughter Mira, sharing her personal experience.
My parents weren't citizens when I was born in this country. They, achieved that many years later.
The 14th Amendment states, quote, all persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States and of the state wherein they reside, unquote. It was added to the Constitution after the Civil War to give African Americans full citizenship.
We will fight the Trump administration till the day I die, because there's no way that they're going to come to our city of Chelsea and we're going to stand, with our arms crossed, waiting for our people to be taken away.
And joining us now is Erica Richmond. She's an attorney with the Lawyers for Civil Rights. Thank you for being here today. Erica, it's clear that President Trump is testing the limits of executive power, challenging birthright citizenship, which has been settled law for more than 100 years. So explain the legal challenge to this executive order.
Thank you so much for having me, Karen. So on Monday, within hours of the inauguration, the Trump administration issued a number of executive orders, one of which stripped citizenship from children born to immigrant mothers. Mm-hmm. And that applies to children born 30 days after the executive order was issued and thereafter. Mm-hmm. And on the off chance that this executive order is upheld, countless children will be deemed stateless, unable to obtain documents mm-hmm. such as Social Security cards and passports. However, at Lawyers for Civil Rights, we're very confident that this executive order will not be upheld because
it's what he's trying to do, presumably, is unconstitutional.
Exactly.
Right? And that's going to be the focus of the lawsuit. So you talked a little bit more, talk about some of the consequences of this order if it is upheld.
Mm-hmm. Well, exactly. I mean, children will be, like I said, deemed stateless, mm-hmm. and they could potentially be deported from the United States even though they were born here. Mm-hmm. And, like you said, this executive order is not only immoral, it's un-American, it's cruel, but it's also unconstitutional because mm-hmm. the Constitution states clearly that if you are born in the United States, that you are a citizen of the United States, period.
And we said this has been settled law for over 100 years.
Exactly. And the Trump administration, does not have the authority to determine
in the Constitution.
Exactly.
Okay. So the Trump administration has directed federal prosecutors nationwide to investigate and potentially prosecute state and local officials who don't cooperate with the president's deportation plans. How do you think local officials will view this threat? And if you would, talk about Massachusetts and Governor Healy and Mayor Wu.
Well, I cannot speak to exactly what they plan to do, but I do imagine that they are taking these threats seriously. You know, the Trump administration stated that they were going to, enact these immigration policies. They were going to overturn birthright citizenship, and
Governor Healy has said, in fact, this past week that she's not going to stand in the way of law enforcement doing their job, federal law enforcement.
Exactly.
Yeah. So the new executive order, if it goes into effect, gives law enforcement, which is, I think, one of the disturbing things, it gives law enforcement access to places of worship, schools, hospitals to seek out illegal immigrants. How does this change the equation? And how are schools who have our most vulnerable children in them preparing for this? I mean, these places were considered sanctuaries before.
Well, before even Donald Trump was, formally inaugurated, we have been talking to nonprofits. We've been talking to schools. We've been telling them to stay calm. And we have been letting them know what their rights are and advising them to know the laws. Specifically as it relates to schools, the Supreme Court held that immigrant children have the same education rights as any other child. And by sending ICE into these schools, they are very much violating these rights, not to mention causing trauma to the children who are experiencing these raids and the children who have to witness them.
Again, not giving them due process, which is another protection in the Constitution.
Exactly.
So this is likely going to be a long-running legal fight over immigration policy, and the Trump administration is really seeking to go even further. What will this mean for immigrants, and how are people that you've talked to reacting so far?
They are terrified. They are very scared. There's nonprofits who serve immigrant communities, and, they are very worried about whether they're going to have to divulge their client lists. And so we are just telling them to stay calm and know the law and,
keep a cool head.
Exactly.
Okay, and call the Lawyers Committee
Exactly.
for Civil Rights.
Yes.
All right, Erica, thank you so much. No question that this is going to be a busy 4 years for advocates of immigration, and we want to thank you and your team for all the work you're doing.